The snowstorm raged through the night, swallowing the world in white silence. Then, out of nowhere, a faint sound pierced the howling wind. A cry, weak, desperate, fading. Daniel Parker slammed on the brakes of his old Ford truck, his headlights cutting through the storm just enough to reveal a shadow in the road. Something moved, barely. At first, he thought it was a pile of snow. Then it lifted its head, and he saw two eyes staring back at him, pleading for life. He jumped out into the freezing air. The wind burned his face as he trudged through knee-deep snow toward the animal. It was a dog, a large German shepherd half buried in frost, shivering violently. Its fur was caked with ice, its breathing shallow. Daniel's heart pounded. "Hey, boy, hang in there," he whispered, taking off his jacket and wrapping the dog in it. The animal whimpered softly, its body limp in his arms. Without thinking twice, Daniel carried him to the truck, blasting the heater on high as he sped home through the blizzard. When Daniel burst through the front door, his wife Sarah gasped. "Oh my God, Daniel, what is that?" He laid the dog on a blanket near the fireplace. "He was out there freezing. If I'd been a minute later, he'd be dead." Sarah knelt beside them, gently stroking the dog's fur. "Poor thing. He's freezing." Their son, little Ethan, ran over, eyes wide with concern. "Can we keep him, Dad?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Let's see if he makes it through the night first." For hours, the family worked together, warming towels in the dryer, feeding him spoonfuls of broth, and drying his fur by the firelight. Eventually, the dog stirred, blinking up at them with weary brown eyes. He let out a weak bark as if to say thank you. Ethan grinned. "He's gonna be okay." The family cheered softly, relief washing over them. They decided to name him Max. That night, Max lay curled beside the fireplace, wrapped in a quilt. Daniel couldn't sleep. Something about the way Max had looked at him. It was almost human. Like gratitude mixed with something deeper, something haunting. Outside, the storm continued to roar, but inside, a strange calm settled over the Parkers' home. The next morning, the world was unrecognizable. Snow covered everything, trees, cars, the mailbox, like a ghostly ocean of white. Daniel woke early, intending to check on Max. But when he reached the living room, the dog was gone. Panic jolted through him. The blanket was still warm, but the front door, left slightly ajar, told him everything. "Sarah," he called. "Max is gone." They ran outside, the cold biting their faces, and found paw prints leading into the woods behind their house. "What on earth?" Sarah murmured. Daniel followed the trail, calling Max's name. But the tracks eventually disappeared into the forest. Just as he was about to turn back, something caught his eye, a patch of disturbed snow near an old wooden fence. He brushed the snow aside and froze. There, barely visible beneath the ice, was a small glint of metal. It was a locket. He picked it up and wiped it clean. Inside was a photograph of a woman and a little girl. On the back, engraved faintly, "For Max, always find your way home." Daniel felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. He hurried back home, clutching the locket. When he showed it to Sarah, she gasped. That's the dog's name, Max. Look." He nodded slowly. "Maybe he belonged to someone nearby." But who? Their nearest neighbor was over 2 miles away. Later that morning, a knock echoed through the house. Daniel opened the door to find an older man, his face pale and eyes red-rimmed. "Sir, sorry to bother you," the man said, trembling. "I'm looking for a dog. A German shepherd. Name's Max." Daniel's heart stopped. You're his owner?" The man nodded. "He ran off 2 nights ago during the storm." "My daughter," his voice broke. "She's in the hospital. Max used to sleep by her bed every night. When she fell into a coma, he just stopped eating. When he ran off, I thought..." Tears filled his eyes. "I thought I'd lost him for good." Daniel told him everything, how they'd found Max, how he'd vanished at dawn. The old man listened, trembling, then whispered, "He's going back to her." "He always does." They rushed to the hospital on the edge of town, guided by a strange instinct more than logic. When they arrived, the nurses were in chaos. "Are you family of the patient in room 214? One asked. The old man nodded frantically. Yes, my daughter Lily. The nurse pointed down the hall. Sir, something strange just happened. They hurried to the room, and there, beside the hospital bed, was Max, his fur still damp from melting snow, tail wagging softly. He had somehow found his way across miles of frozen land, through the storm, straight to the little girl's bedside. Lily's eyes were open, weak, blinking, but awake for the first time in months. Daddy, she whispered faintly. Max came back. The old man fell to his knees, sobbing. You came back, boy. You saved her. The nurse stood frozen. She woke up right after the dog came in. Her heart rate stabilized. It's like he brought her back. Daniel and Sarah watched in silence, tears welling in their eyes. Max looked at them, his gaze full of quiet understanding, as if he knew exactly what he had done. The little girl reached out, touching his fur. I dreamed of the snow, she murmured. Max was calling me home. Days passed. Lily recovered faster than anyone expected. Max stayed by her side, never leaving again. The Parkers visited often, becoming close friends with Lily's family. When Daniel told her father how Max had been nearly frozen to death, the old man said something Daniel would never forget. Sometimes love is stronger than the storm. That dog would have crossed the world to find her. Weeks later, when spring finally broke through the frost, Daniel took a drive along that same snowy road. The ice had melted, and the world looked alive again. He stopped at the spot where he'd first found Max and smiled. The wind whispered softly through the trees, almost like a voice saying, "Thank you." He looked up at the clear blue sky and whispered back, "No, Max, thank you." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.